Hi everyone, Robin LaCroix here. I'm a dietitian and a culinary nutrition educator, and I'm here today to make some banana muffins. All right, let's get started. So we'll start with the dry ingredients. We need 1.5 cups of flour. You can choose what type of flour you want to use. I like to use kind of a half and half blend of a regular all-purpose flour and then a whole wheat flour. And I also really like the white whole wheat flour because I think it's a little lighter in taste and texture. So for today, I'm going to do 1 cup of all-purpose and half a cup of the whole wheat. So give your flour a fluff before you measure, and then either take a knife, or if you have it in a container like this, you can use the cover to flatten it out. So 1 cup of all-purpose, and then I'll finish off with my half a cup of the whole wheat. The whole wheat's going to give you a little extra fiber in here, a little boost in nutrition. Okay, and then we need half a teaspoon of baking powder and baking soda. If for some reason you don't have both, feel free to just put in a teaspoon of either one. Either one can work in this recipe. I've just found kind of the half and half blend seems to be a nice amount of leavening. But use what you have on hand. We want this recipe to be nice and flexible and adaptable. All right, and then half a teaspoon of salt. If you watch your sodium really closely, feel free to cut down to a quarter teaspoon. And then for this recipe, I'm going to do a teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon can be a nice balance with those bananas. Okay, and there is our dry ingredients. We'll give those a toss. All right, and we'll switch over bowls over to our wet ingredients. So for here, I'm going to need 3 bananas, and nice and ripe. This is kind of like the perfect ripeness, which is yellow with some brown spots. If they're more brown than this, perfectly fine. You're going to get a little added sweetness. If they're less ripe, they don't work quite as well. So do your best to try to get them on the ripe side. You can put them in a paper bag overnight or for a day if you want to get them to ripen a little faster. So just peel those bananas and pop them in here. If you are cooking with kids or have kids in the household, this can be a great activity to get kids involved, which is peeling bananas and then mashing them up. So the bananas add a nice element of sweetness in here. We will add some sugar, but we don't need quite as much because the bananas sweeten it up so much. I like to use my potato masher when I'm mashing up bananas, but you can also just use a fork if you don't have a potato masher or if you don't want to dirty it. If your banana, or I don't know what that word was. It's like a combination of banana and potato. If your bananas are ripening, but you're not at a point of making the muffins, feel free to freeze them. I find sometimes if I'm rushing, I throw the whole banana in the freezer. It's not ideal. It just tends to get messier. It's best if you can peel them, maybe break them in half, put them in a Ziploc bag, and just freeze them that way, and then you can kind of thaw them out through there. I just find when I go with my lazier version, I tend to end up having to throw them away later on. So it's worth taking that extra step to freeze them in a Ziploc bag, peeled. Okay. The compost. So to our wet ingredients, we need 1/3 of a cup of oil. I use canola oil. You could use avocado oil. Whoopsie, sorry for the loud noise. Yeah, any kind of oil that you feel most comfortable using in your house. Canola and avocado are nice, heart-healthy oils. You could use olive oil too. It will make your product a little bit on the darker brown side as it cooks and maybe be a little bit stronger flavor, but you could use that as well. And then I need 1/3 of a cup of buttermilk. And because I don't really buy buttermilk or have it on hand, I have 1/3 of a cup of milk. And I just put a teaspoon of lemon juice or vinegar in here. And that's going to kind of curdle the milk. It sounds gross, but it works. And it gives you the consistency of buttermilk that we're looking for. So teaspoon of vinegar or lemon juice in your milk, let it sit for a minute or two, and then we'll put that in here and that will act as our buttermilk. Okay, and then I need 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I have a kitten playing right in front of me, so if she pops and scream, don't be alarmed. Oh, I need 1 egg. Let me grab one from the fridge. So 1 egg. If you prefer not to use egg, you could always make a flax egg with flaxseed. That's an alternative for people who want to make this recipe vegan. All right, let's see if our milk is getting a little chunky in here. It's looking a little thicker, so I'll put that in. Okay, we've got all of our wet ingredients in here. So these banana muffins can also be made into banana bread if that's your preference. Muffins or bread, the same recipe works for both. All right, so I'm going to add the wet to the dry here. And we want to mix this through, but be careful not to over mix it. Definitely wouldn't want to use beaters or anything. You just want to kind of get it fully mixed together. It'll help with consistency, kind of in texture of their overall product. If you like chocolate chips in your banana bread or banana muffins, you could add maybe 1/3 cup of chocolate chips to this as well. But I'm just going to do them kind of the standard muffin for today. Okay, make sure your flour is all mixed in, especially if you put the wet in the dry. Sometimes the flour likes to stick right on the bottom, so make sure you're getting a full scrape up of that. All right, and there is our muffin batter. It's kind of the consistency that we want to see. So I have oiled my muffin tin. I'm using a mini muffin tin today. This, I just like the size that these muffins come out, but you could easily use a regular 12-cup muffin tin as well. And we want to fill them almost full, maybe like 7/8 full. They will definitely puff up, but usually almost full is a nice amount here. So we're going to bake these at 350 degrees. The mini muffins take about 15 to 17 minutes. Definitely check them at 15. Overcooking the muffins, they will easily dry out, so we want to really be careful to take them out right when they're done. And then the full-size muffins will probably take about 22 to 24 minutes, but maybe check those at 20 as well. And to tell if they're done, you could use a toothpick, but I find just kind of carefully taking them out and just pressing down with your finger, you want it to fully bounce back. If it stays indented at all, there's still liquidy batter in there. Once it pops back, then you're good to take them out. And you'll want to let them cool in the pan for a good 5 minutes, and then you can kind of take a butter knife and go around the outside of them and pop them out. I'll show you that as they come out. If you have leftover batter, which it looks like I'm going to have, any type of oven-proof kind of ceramic dish can work for baking. I'll show you what I'm going to use. So I just have some of these kind of small Pyrex glasses, and so I'm just going to put a little oil in here, and I'll put the rest, and we'll just get a big muffin out of the extra there. All right, so in these muffins go. I've got one that came up a little short here. For about 15 minutes, and I'll show you what they look like when they come out. All right, so our banana muffins have come out of the oven. I did end up cooking them for 17 minutes. So I found when I pressed down, a couple of especially the bigger ones were a little indented, so I gave them another minute. So 17 minutes was perfect here. So as they came out, they were nice and puffy. They will sink down just a little bit. That's really normal, so if you see that happen. And so once they're cooling a little bit, you can just take your butter knife and kind of go around the edge and flip them. I tend to usually kind of loosen them a little bit and just flip them on their side if they seem like they'll tolerate that to cool a little bit. But they're really nice and kind of soft and squishy and fluffy. The texture, again, as they're really hot, they'll be a little more moist, but the texture looks great. You'll see a little bit of banana in there. They smell delicious. They're a really nice balance of sweetness, banana flavor. You can taste a little bit of the cinnamon in there. They're really delicious. So hope you give these a try and yeah, enjoy.